In this post, I'm going to discuss the hidden costs of free sex, or just free things in general. Sex sells. This is a tried and true sentiment. We like looking at attractive people, and they can charge us for it. Though this is far from gender specific, this is definitely something that males act on a lot more, the urge to be attracted to attractiveness. So, if sex sells, how do you explain when it doesn't, even when it's free? This is a bit from an article titled Horribly Unfunny. Amy Schumer's Netflix special gets trashed with one-star reviews. The reviews are in. Amy Schumer the Leather special is a dud. At the start of her routine, Schumer explains why she decided to wear a tight leather ensemble. Every comic has one moment where they wear leather and they regret it. This is my moment. She was right. Now I'm going to read an excerpt from an article titled Pornhub Says It Will Plow Snow in Boston for Free. When Boston plow truck drivers get to work clearing snow during tomorrow's big storm, they'll have some help. From Pornhub. Pledging to assist anyone who wants to get plowed, the adult entertainment site said it's sending out a fleet of branded trucks to clean the city's streets and parking lots for free. What can we learn from this relatively free comedy special and apparent free services from a company with a product that always sells? I wrote about Amy Schumer before in an article where her and Steven Crowder were going back and forth in a news panel about lifestyle choices, and remarked that there was definitely a decline in her life compared to Crowder's, and it seems that that decline continues. Here in this stand up of hers, she focused too much on the appearances and too little on content. Yes, the other comedians wore leather, but what were they doing while they did it? They were being hilarious. They made fun of presidents, they spoke about race, they had sexually raunchy content, and they were critical of private security services. So, when it comes to content, they just happened to be wearing leather while doing this, but it wasn't entirely alien to what Amy Schumer was talking about. So, was it that they're all males? No. Since there were black males, many of the people that Amy Schumer supports and many of the things she personally says would say that women and minorities are equally disadvantaged in this world that benefits white males. So they may have been wearing similar things, but they were doing different things. As for Pornhub, how excellent for free plowing to be offered by a company whose content is free plowing. Whomever was in charge of this marketing is definitely worth the money that they're earning. It's good that they aren't just out on the streets willy-nilly, resulting in children probably asking elders what porn is, but why is it free? Sure, they'll get the advertising, and it's not like you'll go to the site and pay, but you will go to the site. On the site, you will search for what you want, and they'll keep extensive statistics on those search terms. Why would they do this? All the better to sell you, my dear. You are the product. We are the product. If they aren't selling sex, they're using it as bait to sell you. Sex does sell, but you've got to have that appeal. Miss Schumer has lost most of whatever appeal she once had. This has likely been aided by her vocal and derisive nature in many fields, speaking out about politics and other social issues. If she was truly against sexualization, then why the bare shoulders? And this bare shoulders thing, I mean, I've seen some outfits where they kind of just have the shoulders cut out. This is a little bit of a sidebar, but it seems to be kind of an opposite of, I don't know if you remember the padded shoulders from, I think it was the 70s or 80s or early 90s. But there was this style where women used to wear padded shoulders, and now they're going to no shoulders. Kind of interesting. But let me get back to the topic. So she's not really against sexualization. She's against sexualization that doesn't benefit her. And it's not necessarily about her age, since I've seen research showing that MILFs, which are elder maternal women one may hope to fornicate with, are quite popular when it comes to porn. Um, that might be actually where. Hmm. There actually may be some Oedipal part about that, though, with not just the age, but some love and caring aspect of the person that attracts people. And this is something that Amy Schumer was missing. And this may be something people want, probably due to lacking relationships with their parents, but that's a whole nother mess. So there we have it again, the content. Content is important. It's not just about appearances. I can personally attest to having my words taken from me by seeing fantastically beautiful people, especially when you meet them in person. Mostly for me, it's the eyes, fantastic, clear, large, expressive eyes that are neoteny personified. Or would that be ocularified? They've been known to take my breath away. So, in many cases, once I actually got to talk to these people or get to know them better, that feeling subsided. It seems the answer to the question of if they were a great person that happened to look great was more important than any unearned genetic physical features they may have. As we are on the topic of appearance, here's an article about Donald the President Trump's administration cutting billions in funding to the United Nations. This is an excerpt from that article. Signaling an unprecedented retreat by President Donald Trump's administration from international operations that keep the peace, provide vaccines for children, monitor rogue nuclear weapons programs, and promote peace talks from Syria to Yemen, according to three sources. I say you doth protest too much. This convenient line of reasoning is similar to the one made by advocates for Planned Parenthood that say all taxed money that is used to fund it goes to everything else besides abortions. So that's not how things work. If you paid me $200 and I added to the $200 I already had on hand, then go spend $100 on something you disagree with, how sure are you that the money that you gave me didn't fund that expenditure? Even if you deposited the money directly into my bank account and I used the $100 from the cash that I had on me, can you honestly state that your $200 payment had nothing to do with if I did that action or not? So let's give Planned Parenthood and the United Nations the benefit of the doubt. Let's say that they can prove exactly where the money that the US government decides to keep from its own taxed livestock would not have gone to conferences hosting literally who about literally anything. Who says they can provide the best services that they claim are positive and worthwhile? Where is the case made that those should be done by them? Do they have a track record that makes you confident that they should be given these responsibilities? I once used to think that the UN was not effective because of a lack of connectivity in the world, whether it's due to cultural or technological reasons. And more recently, I said that with modern advances, it may finally be able to be what it was purported to be. I was wrong. Modern advances came to be in part because the UN and other organizations were failing to prevent, if not outright enabling, many of the things they claim to be against. As I stated before, if a service is wanted, people will want it and someone will provide it. It may be of interest for a company like Pornhub to provide sexual education courses, for instance. It's likely more beneficial to monogamous relationships to have any extra sexual needs to be served online than with other people. So, with these two things matching, Pornhub could give itself some more positive PR or positive relations to its general salacious nature, similar to how tobacco companies are also in charge of anti tobacco movements, although that might not be the best example since I'm not quite sure how effective those are. But people like and want sex. They also like and want to laugh. So, as you don't need an agency to fund some Laugh Factory, Laugh Factory is actually a name of a comedy company here in Nairobi, Kenya. You also wouldn't need a publicly funded company like Planned Parenthood to serve those human needs. When Amy Schumer was funny, we laughed. And now she isn't that funny, and some still do laugh, but at her. Amy Schumer may have thought that the world would end with Trump's win, and I hope she realizes that it won't. She decided not to leave for Spain after he won, as she had once said that she would. Let's hope that she doesn't choose a more permanent departure. Some comedians have unfortunately been known to be suicidal when things appeared to be much better than they do for her now. Remember though, just because it looks like something is ending doesn't mean it will. For instance, if someone was to put together a live action film based on the Archer animated series, she'd make for a great Pam movie. It could definitely save her career, in my opinion. Though she'd have to put on weight to play the non hooked on cocaine version. So, just as people were unsatisfied with what television was offering and other established forms of getting information, then companies like Netflix stepped in to supply for the need that people still had for entertainment and found ways to be profitable. Is a similar way that Pornhub came to be when people were unsatisfied with DVDs, tapes, and other ways of purchasing and obtaining their porn. This is two examples of private companies that are offering solutions that are comparative or surpass anything that's offered by the public sector and the taxed funding that goes with that. In addition to that, some things probably can't be salvaged, you know? Amy Schumer's career probably can. Some of these companies, things like Planned Parenthood, things like the schools, some of them were probably never that worthy to begin with. Some of them were a bad idea, and it may be time for some of these institutions, practices, expectations, and plans to be severely rolled back or shuttered completely. Okay, I'm going to call it a rant here. There's going to be a link to a blog post that goes with this. It's going to have some links about some of the comedians that wore leather, who Amy Schumer was talking about. Which, another thing, I'm just wondering, she opens up by calling back to these amazing comedians that had really earned their stripes in the industry. She's already putting herself on that level, and then follows it up by a substandard show. So that's kind of unfortunate. Some delusions of grandeur going there. And you hear the content. There's one clip in there about Chris Rock talking about Monica Lewinsky, and he talks about Hillary Clinton in there when she was the first lady. And this is kind of reminding me about some of the outrage that's coming out with people saying things about Trump. Now, I do understand that Donald Trump has been assailed by sources a lot more than most people, than a lot more than any politician that I can think of. So I understand why people are on edge, but this whole idea of certain people making fun of politicians, making fun of celebrities, making fun of public figures, this is a regular thing. Sure, it may not have been done by the news. I'd say on that aspect, the news doing this is something a lot different, but comedians, entertainers, rappers, all these people talking about politicians in a certain way, I think some of the hand wringing and woe is me action coming out from that could be rolled back a bit. There's also a link to an article about the UN, which is, I mean, what's the percentage of the UN for you to say that it's actually a valuable thing? What percentage of what it does would qualify for its continuance? Because this article about this panel of people going on there and talking about cyberbullying in an official sense. Now, I don't know, it wasn't a massive thing. Then you also have situations where countries that have debatable internal policies towards the way they treat humans, human rights conditions, heading human rights commissions in the UN. So there's a general situation of there's a questionable situation of how effective it truly is. So I'll call it a rant there. Thanks for listening. Like, share, and subscribe. Until next time. Bye.